America, Honda's Miguel Duhamel in super sport racing and added to his all-time.
Gateway International Raceway on the shores of the Mississippi River, just across from downtown St. Louis, Missouri. Kart and the Kart FedEx Championship Series is ready to qualify for tomorrow's running of the Motorola 300. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page. When we look at the top of the points order, Bill DeFerrin moved into the top position just a week ago as an accounting of his finish at Laguna Seca. But look how close everybody else is. There's 88 points left in the season. And with a single point up for qualifying becomes just that much more important. But how did the top contenders do in the practice and the warm-up for today's qualifying? Well, most of them have not fared particularly well. And so not only the position, but that single point becomes so very, very important when this day is over. There's some other news going on here. Several reports have now confirmed that Bobby Rahal, the interim president and CEO of CART, will go to Formula One next year to run Jaguar's operation. The announcement is expected to be made while Formula One visits the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Rahal insists he'll keep his team next year and oversee CART through the end of the year.
I've always maintained this was an interim position, and that's not changed. My commitment is to this series for some time to come, you know, certainly through the end of the season, and because we're in the process of doing a lot of things. So I don't see things changing from that front. And what for me personally the future holds, aside from all that, probably will become a little bit clearer within the next week or so.
Obviously, it's a bit of a surprise to everyone. We all knew that Rahal's position was an interim position too, but again, he was an important factor. I think he was doing a great job by continuing the progress of the series.
Well, you can bet that that announcement has the paddock abuzz. It's interesting. There's quite a bit of frustration and, in fact, Parker, some anger.
Well, there are some concerns about Rahal leaving to manage a Formula One team. There are also rumors that Barry Green will be leaving for next season to manage the BAR Formula One team. Also, more concern over the recent SEC filings from a couple of owners selling large volumes of stock. How can that be interpreted? Well, the perception in the CART community is not positive, but Paul, you have another slant on this.
Well, one CART owner who didn't want to be named said that he looks forward to it because there actually hasn't been that much done in the front office since Rahal took over. And Jerry Forsythe, you have to remember, is buying up CART stock right and left, and he has a very positive attitude on the future of the series. Let's go down pit side. Here's Gary Gerald.
So, Paul, with all of this talk swirling up and down pit road, you're wondering how Bobby Rahal's team and his drivers are doing this weekend here at Gateway. And we're here to tell you they're doing very well. Very impressive. Led by Max Pappas, who this morning was the quickest man thus far this weekend. He knocked off laps in excess of 180 miles per hour. Now, he'll frankly tell you, this season hasn't met up to their expectations since that season opening win at Miami. He'd love to pace this field in tomorrow's running of the Motorola 300. As for his teammate, Kenny Breck, he was fourth quickest overall this morning. Nice jump in speed. And while he's coming here, new man to this series, he too looking for his first win of his CART Champ Car career, and they have great expectations going into this weekend. But keep in mind, top six this morning separated by only a tenth of a second. The slightest mistake, man, you're out of the front row. Let's go to Jan Beek.
Well, Gary, we saw in the graphic earlier that the championship point leaders have not run that quickly in practice thus far, and I can tell you why. And that's because we have a 300-mile race coming tomorrow, and with a 300-mile race, you want to spend your time, as the Penske team has done, out running for long runs, heavy fuel tank loads, so you can be sure that your car stays consistent over that 300-mile distance. Now, there may be a couple teams that aren't high in the championship points that might roll the dice. Go out with just a specific qualifying setup here and try and see if they can ring it out. But I think if you're in the running for the championship, a little bit conservative today. Paul?
Well, there have been a couple of incidents in the practice. The first one, very surprising. Yep, Montoya.
Paul, this is his first unforced error on an oval. Remember, the only other incident he had occurred at Motegi last year with Michael Andretti. But he was right back in the car and right at the top of the timesheets within minutes.
And then Tony Kanaan had something let go in the back end, and look at the fire that it produced.
Boy, jet-powered Mercedes here rolling down through the first and second corners. Tony, though, right back up in his backup car and very, very quick.
Of course, the qualifying just leads up to the running of the Motorola 300, and we'll have CART today during the morning warm-up. up in the Dayton Indy Lights at 1:30 Eastern Time, 10:30 Pacific. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Now, earlier as we got started, this is Tarso Marquez on his qualifying run. He got it up close to the wall, but nevertheless, he finished his qualifying. And Senji Nakano came out, completed his run. Michel Jourdain Jr., here is Mercedes power again. Couple of consistent laps for Michel. Memo Gidley, Toyota Power, driving for John Della Penna. And he qualified and currently has the pole. Mark Blundell came out, took a pretty good shot at Gidley, but he couldn't knock him off that top position. And now, at the moment at least, we'll start on the outside of the front row. Dario Franchitti is now on the green flag. This will be the conclusion of the first of 2 laps for Franchitti. No surprise, right now he has the provisional pole, 179.034 miles an hour.
And what is surprising is, remember, he ran so strongly here last year, and also Dario is one of a handful of drivers yet to win a race this season that was predicted actually at the beginning of the season to go on and fight for this championship battle. Now well down in the points.
And that's a substantial improvement for Franchitti. His best practice speed was at 175.691 miles an hour, so he's really up there. With the 2 laps complete, Dario Franchitti takes the provisional pole. And Parker Johnstone, we're talking a day where the sun is beginning to bear down on this track.
Well, Gary and Jan have been keeping track of the track temperatures. When this session first started, it was 114 degrees, but the track temperature is headed up very quickly, now gaining 6-7 degrees in just the last few minutes.
One car went out to qualify, but they disallowed the run of Luis Garcia Jr. Ride height was wrong. 6 have qualified. We'll be back. ESPN Speed World coverage of Kart Qualifying is brought to you today by Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. Move your money. Get well connected. Just taking the green flag, Christian Fittipaldi. It's a Lola powered by Ford. He's practiced at 176.368 miles an hour. Bit of a bump here in turn 3. Off of 4, first of the 2 laps complete. Darts well away from the wall. Christian Fittipaldi at 175.785. Third quick, that'll make him based on the first lap.
And both he and his Newman Haas teammate Michael Andretti have struggled all weekend long. Jan talked about being conservative and looking towards the race, but I think these 2 drivers in particular are in trouble because they haven't been able to find any combination to get any speed out of this Lola Ford combination so far.
And remember, too, while it certainly is an impact for Fittipaldi, who is unable to improve on his time, certainly an impact on Fittipaldi. The real question is Michael Andretti and what that will do to his points fight at this moment. Now, just a few moments ago, Alex Barron went out. Remember, he will replace to the end of the season Takuya Kurosawa. And this run at 176.233 miles an hour, good enough to put him second quick behind Franchitti.
And he, like a number of drivers this season, are in a difficult position. They're driving extremely hard, maybe a little bit over the ability of the chassis to try to make an impression to see if they've got it right next year.
Gary Gerald.
With Dario Franchitti, 4-mile-per-hour gain from your best previously. Did you surprise yourself? Did you find some magic here?
We just sat down and said, look, we've got a big problem here. We're 19th quickest this morning. The track got faster. We didn't make any improvement from yesterday. We just really had to think about it for qualifying. Now we have to go back and think about it for the race because that car was definitely a qualifying car.
We were asking you about the bump in turn number 3 because all of our onboard shots, we can see you got a handful of steering wheel. Is that something that you can avoid, or are you going to have to hit that on every lap if you're in the race line?
You pretty much hit that in every lap. That is really what sets up the corner. You have to deal with that bump first of all, and then you can deal with the rest of the corner. That upsets the car, so it's a big factor in this racetrack.
All right, thanks. Nice job.
Thank you.
Jan?
Well, Roberto Moreno is another one of these drivers that's trying to get back on track. Have you made any progress on getting the setup you want here for the Oval?
For sure. I'm very, very pleased with the setup we have here for the Vision car. We made a lot of improvements. We came here with a very good base setup. Yesterday we worked on race conditions. This morning we worked in qualifying conditions, and we're looking quite quick.
Is this a place you think you can pass well?
Well, it's getting tough and tougher to pass because it's so competitive between everybody. But it's one of those deals that this race will be very, very good for the Vision team because it's good for strategy.
All right, have a good run, Roberto.
Thanks very much.
And while Roberto Moreno waits, he's one of the guys that seems pretty well assured of his ride with Patrick Racing for next year. This guy, Oriol Servia, who just started his qualifying run, is one of those that's still a bit of a question mark, though, Parker, we occasionally hear Patrick Racing's name mentioned in his future.
Well, that certainly seems to be the prevailing rumor in the paddock right now. Several teams interested in Oriol Services for next year. Very bright, well-educated, talented young driver, just trying to figure out where the best home for him might be. Cal Wells wants to keep him at PPI for next year. We'll see how that plays out.
First lap, good enough for fourth quick for Oriol Servia. Former Lights champion, rookie in the series this year. See what the second lap holds for him. Off of 4. Checkered flag for Servia. He increases the speed, but it's not enough to improve his position. Oriol Servia at the moment will start on the outside of row 2 in the 4th position. So thus far we have 9 cars qualified for the running of the Motorola 300 in Gateway International Raceway. Yeah, I'm having a good time. Don't forget all the coverage of motorsports on ESPN2 with NASCAR today, RPM today, and then a special 1-hour edition of RPM tonight at Gateway International Raceway. Paul Tracy is on his run now on the backstretch. Well, that bump really bounces everybody, doesn't it, Parker?
It does, and it's very difficult for the engineers to try to figure out how to get the car as low to the ground as possible so it produces maximum downforce. The car's got to be very stiff, so then you've got the problem of how do you ride that bump without the car snapping on you. On new tires, like we're seeing Paul Tracy on for qualifying, the tires give you that extra grip. With full fuel load, heat, and a long run, it's very easy for the car to come unstuck over that bump, rotate backwards into the fence.
Again, Tracy is qualifying faster than he practiced. Practice at 176.8. First lap, 178.8. And the second lap puts him on the provisional pole at 179.294. So for the moment at least, it's an all-team green front row. And in the case of at least Dario Franchitti, he qualified faster than all but 6 of the cars were able to practice. And again, with the temperature going up, the assumption is that the times are going to be out about the same or a little slower.
Well, the last 2 days, we've seen the quickest times in the first sessions in the morning, going slower in the afternoon. For Paul Tracy, though, his best time of the weekend, and now Michael Andretti. I've been looking at how these guys have qualified on the ovals with their top 6 championship contenders. 2 drivers, Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti, are amongst the worst qualifiers on the oval, averaging a 10.8 position start. But keep in mind, Paul came in second here last year. He won the inaugural event back in 1997, and this driver, Michael Andretti, he won last year. And these 2 guys don't really seem to care where they qualify on the ovals, or in that fact, anywhere, because they always have a tendency to come forward and be in a position to win come the checkered flag.
And an interested observer who is coming up a bit later is Tony Kanani on Vegas.
Yes, he's had a great practice time. He was 8th in practice. Is this one of these Monon super setups?
Well, definitely. I mean, we can look back in Chicago how good the car was. And when I came here, I knew I had a good car. We have a competitive package, I think, for this racetrack. So I would say today we just need to work hard to start keep the momentum, start in the top 8, and you know, who knows, it'd be like Chicago, we surprise everybody in qualifying, but that's up to that man up there.
Well, I think it's more up to this guy right here. Thanks, Tony.
And this guy is Michael Andretti, defending champion here. And the point for Michael Andretti, the point earned for the pole, may be absolutely critical in his championship battle.
And I don't think he's got a car underneath him to actually get that done, but we've talked about this quite often in the past. Michael knows what the car has to feel like in order to be good during the course of the long runs, during the course of the race. He hasn't been able to put the car at the front on an oval in quite some time, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it here today, but watch tomorrow when he comes through the field to the front.
77.3 was his best practice. You can see he's not running as fast as his practice. 176.3, good enough for third. See where he goes on the second lap. No change. Michael Andretti is unable to match even his practice speed and will not get that single point for the pole. So the battle for a championship while he's in a good position, there is his dad and his mom. Well, he's in a good position, but nevertheless, he's got a long, long way to go. We'll be back with more. At Gateway International, Mauricio Guzman just completed the first of his 2 laps at 177.8 miles an hour, good enough for third quick.
Goes down the 1,800-foot long back straightaway. This is a very long sweeping corner. You can see the big bump that he just crested, 160 miles an hour minimum cornering speed. Car reached terminal velocity just past start finish, 210 miles an hour.
177.8 is it, and that's only slightly faster than he practiced, so at least Mauricio Guzman was able to improve his practice time.
Came out of 2. Push and the rear wasn't like stable, and into 3 on the last run. I just hit the ground too much and put me high. So I got too much push and couldn't get back to the gas.
We're talking, of course, there about that bump over in turn 3. Let's go down to Gary Gerald with the current pole sitter.
We heard from Dario Franchitti a while ago. Here's his teammate Paul Tracy. Now, you also were able to make a pretty dramatic jump from this morning. Something specifically you found in the setup?
No, not really. I mean, we've been a little loose all weekend, so the car's been fairly balanced, and we just had a lot of traffic in the morning and couldn't really put the whole lap together, but pretty happy with how Team Cool Green ran today. We currently 1-2, so we don't know where we're going to end up, but we improved quite a bit from this morning, so we'll see what happens.
You dare hope for a championship point for the pole, or is it too early?
Hey, I don't know if that's going to hold up for pole, because there's some guys that are going to be real quick coming, but we've got a good car, and I think we've got a good race car, so it's the race that's most important.
You're going to swing right over here. Thank you, Paul, and get a quick word with Michael Andretti, talking with Peter Gibbons, his engineer. How satisfied are you at this point?
Not satisfied at all, but here we go again. We're going to have to come from the back if we're going to win the thing, so it's making life a little more difficult again.
You have been able to do that in the past, however. Is there a comfort zone? Is there a confidence that goes with being able to come from somewhere in the middle of the pack to win?
Well, yeah, but you just, you know, you're using up all your chances, you know. You can only do it so many times, but, you know, we're going to try. The car's been feeling good under race conditions, so, you know, hopefully it'll be okay. At least it's a long race, you know. It is 300 miles, so a lot can happen.
That's what makes this championship deal so interesting, Paul.
And Michael Andretti last year won this race from 11th position, currently sits 4th. Well, maybe he can do it. He certainly knows how to get around on the ovals. Here's Jimmy Vassar.
We heard Paul Tracy say that his car's been neutral to just a little loose all weekend long. That's exactly what you need to go faster. This long sweeping corner, the 3-4 turns. The car, if it's perfectly balanced through here and you can manage to get it over the bump without bottoming the car too severely, that means that coming down into this corner, you're hard on the brakes. The cars will always pick up an understeer. The car will always push up out of the groove. The cars have to stay off. The drivers have to stay off the throttle on the initial entry and then pick it up coming down into turn 3. So there's a real balancing act of trying to get the car to work through 1 and 2 without being too loose or taking off over the bump going through turns 3 and 4.
First lap is pretty good for Jimmy. Let's see if he can improve on it. Third quick right now. Checker comes out for Vassar, and he goes to the pole position. He only needed about a mile an hour above his practice speed in order to do that.
5.368 is what you P1 at the moment. P1 at the moment. 25.368. Good job.
And you got a brief view there on the scoring condominium, as they now call him. Tom Anderson, his wife Cheryl, is a regular photographer in the series. Actually had an accident after the race at Laguna Seca, California, broke both of her wrists, and we all send, everybody on the paddock sends the best regards to Cheryl. Hope she hurry up and comes back. Well, Kenny Brick has had a great weekend thus far. I personally think this may be his first victory, but what do I know? Jan, can you update?
Oh, I can just tell you what the team's been doing. Paul, Don Halliday, their chief engineer, just came over here and made an adjustment on the front wings. They took an inclinometer, which measures the angle of the wing, and they made a one-turn change here on the right front wing. That equates about to a half a degree only as far as the change goes. So very much fine-tuning. Now, of course, his teammate hasn't run yet, so he just obviously must be observing the other cars on the racetrack, knows the heat is coming up, and they want more downforce on the front.
And when you're talking Don Halliday, you're talking to a guy that does certainly know how to do that. Gary Gerald.
With Mauricio Guzman. Mo, we had your radio up as you took the checker. You were talking about bottoming. Now, how much does that unsettle the car, and how difficult is it to squeeze out the speed if you're bottoming each lap?
Well, it's actually the only problem here is turn 3. There is a spot there on the entry of 3 that the car is bottoming, and until you get up to speed, it's very hard to gauge how hard you're going to bottom. Everybody does, but you want it to be as light as possible, because at the same time, you don't want a car that's running too high because you're giving downforce away. And on my second lap, I just hit too hard and gave me a push car all the way coming out of 4th.
Don't want that for 236 laps tomorrow, do you?
Definitely not, because you're going to end up in the wall if you do.
Ooh, thanks, Mo.
Mauricio Guzman on the track is the Bulldog. Roberto Pupo Moreno, who has kind of gone back to use middle name, really his mother's name, in the Brazilian custom of Pupo. Moreno's practice times have been at 178.1. So 2 miles an hour over that, and Moreno would be on the pole position. Of course, we have seen some variance. Most of the cars have been slightly better than their practice time. Moreno good enough for 5th quick on the first lap, 177.4. Not as fast as he's practiced.
And he's going to have to make a huge improvement here to get to the front. We saw Jimmy pick up almost 0.3 of a second from his quickest time this weekend. Right now, Moreno running just a little slower than his best time. So whatever he's got left in that car, he's going to have to try to wring it out. But the problem on this oval, if the car's pushing, there's just no place to pick up time.
5th quick once again. So it's 5th overall provisionally right now, with Jimmy Vasser having the provisional pole. Paul Tracy will start on the outside of the front row. Second row right now would be Franchitti, Mauricio Guzman, and then it's Moreno and Michael Andretti. There's the lineup. Toyota is the quickest, followed by 2 Hondas, a Mercedes, and a Ford. Qualifying for the Motorola 300 at Gateway International Raceway is underway in Madison, Illinois. I'm Paul Page with Parker Johnstone. There's Alex Tagliani. His first lap was good enough for 4th quick overall. We have 15 cars in the field, and we're seeing as Tag goes over that bump, there it is, and you can actually hear the cars bottom when they come over there. See what this second lap does for him. 4th quick, Alex Tagliani, the rookie. Jimmy Vasser right now has the provisional pole. Still some big names to come, though, Gary.
Jimmy, yesterday you were running the single-sided turbo. Today you're not, and you've got a nice qualifying effort going thus far. Is there a specific reason why you changed today?
Well, we couldn't get the boost control. I mean, the single-sided turbo makes it really tough to control the boost, and with turn 1 and 2 being so much speed down and downshifting, it makes it difficult to control. So, you know, all the Toyota cars were trying to make it work, and we just felt it was better to go with the double-sided. A little less horsepower, but a little better boost control. You can run the set point a little higher, so it's kind of a wash.
Good. Now, we're talking to a lot of guys about the bump over in turn number 3. How are you getting through there?
Yeah, not too bad. I don't really, not really have a problem with it. I've been having problems with the car in 3, just being a little loose, you know, before the bump, and we seem to make it a little bit better for qualifying. So, you know, hopefully we can get the car real consistent and solid for the race.
Look forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's check in with Jan. Maybe we'll learn a little more about this Toyota situation.
Yes, Gary, of course, you asked Jimmy about why did he not run the single-sided turbo. Well, it turned out that all the Toyota runners were running it yesterday. Then Juan Montoya got loose on the racetrack, spun, knocked the rear wing, and damaged the rear suspension, so he went to the backup car. Well, the backup car did not have the single-sided turbo, and he found out right away, hey, this is a lot better. I have much better response because we have to come off the throttle so much, certainly down in turn number 1. he changed, and of course, whatever Montoya says, people listen, no one's running it today for Toyota.
Nor is anybody going to run it for Honda. Remember, Paul Tracy did, and with some great success at Michigan. But today, it's the standard wastegates on both sides of the turbo. And so we don't have that raucous high report that we have when they do run the single-sided turbo. Here is Patrick Carpentier. 178.7, his best practice speed. But he's been looking very, very good this weekend. Green flag ahead for the young French-Canadian, who is looking for employment when this season is over.
I spoke to Patrick last night in the paddock, and he said he's got some interest from several teams. He's just waiting for the bad luck to stop so that he can put together a performance and try to get a win done before this season is over.
I've noticed the configuration on the nose of that car.
Well, first of all, we've got the duckbill, which we saw Pac West debut last year. Players Foresight has also been running it. You can also see there are two little winglets just in trail of the front wings. What they're trying to do is to control the airflow to the bottom of the car to make the tunnels more efficient. Remember, this year they reshaped the under tray so that they incorporated the tunnel blockers with the underwing of the car. And what they're trying to do is to get the under tray to work more efficiently, produce more downforce with less drag.
Oh, Carpentier brings it out very close to the turn 4 wall. Improves his time, but not his position. Fourth quick is it for Patrick Carpentier, 179.182 miles an hour. Gary Gerald.
With his teammate Alex Tagliani, how similar are the setups between you and your teammate? We just saw Patrick take the checker.
Yeah, I think they're pretty close because at the beginning of the weekend, Pat was struggling a little bit, and we were, we were in the top 5 for all weekend long, and so I think he took pretty much our setup, and that's the way it works sometimes. When one car goes good, the other car is going better on the second day. But we still try to improve our car, and we don't know what they did for their qualifying, but our car, we decided to do something and we were loose, so hopefully for tomorrow we're going to be faster.
When you're loose at this racetrack and you've got that bump over there in turn 3, is it frightening?
No, but I think my car got loose coming out of 2, and the car was okay over the bumps, but I didn't carry as much speed in 3 and 4 because I got loose in 1 and 2, so I think we should have improved that a little bit, but it's okay. I think it's going to be a long race, so hopefully we'll start in the top 10 and we'll see at the end.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks.
Jan?
Well, when you talk about getting loose, you've got to talk to Juan Montoya. We just talked to Alex Tagliani. If the bumps or anything, if that makes you nervous out there, I have a feeling for you it doesn't.
It doesn't really, you make the car go over the bumps and that's it, it's not that big of a deal, we've been struggling a bit with understeer, so we did a couple of changes to the car, so we'll see. It should be pretty balanced, so if it's balanced, it should be pretty fast.
Now, you've made a reputation with qualifying. Can you put it on the pole today?
I hope so, Jimmy did some changes and he went pretty fast, so I hope so, I think Jimmy's time is close to the time you gotta get to get on the pole, so we'll see. It'll be interesting.
All right, have a good run.
Thank you.
Last year at this track, I watched Montoya. It looked like he went opposite lock, and back again. And I went to the team and asked for the graph as we watched Tony Kanaan here. And sure enough, he went to opposite lock 3 different times in one corner, and the throttle never came off of the floor.
Well, Montoya just cracks me up as we're watching that interview. I'm thinking, okay, he says it's pushing. For everyone else, that's neutral to loose. I wonder what his version of neutral is. It's probably scary snap oversteer to everyone else. Obviously, with the huge jump that Vassar made, almost 0.3 of a second, which is the biggest improvement we've seen so far in the field. Whatever changes he made, if they incorporate that into Juan's car and Juan likes it, he should be very, very quick.
5th quick for Tony Kanaan at 178.8. Right now, 3 of the points contenders are in the top 9 positions as we continue to track that battle. Mercedes power, Morris non-ownership. Tony Kanaan.
I was looking at some of the section times yesterday, and this chassis was amongst the fastest through turns 1 and 2 and also 3 and 4. A little slow down the straightaway. We've seen that oftentimes this year where Mo Nunn's been able to get this chassis working very, very good in the corner sections, just a little bit slow down the straightaways.
Well, lately the trend has changed. It doesn't seem that they can get faster on their second lap. The same is true certainly for Tony Kanaan. Contenders in the series. Wondering who's going to end up with that 1 point for qualifying, because it has become incredibly important.
Right now.
The Ford Reynard of Adrian Fernandez on the course now. First lap, good enough for 6 quick, 178.7.
If you look at the average starting position of our top 6 championship contenders, Adrian's at the bottom of the list with an average starting position of 13th. Contrast that with DeFerrin, average starting position 5th.
Driving for the Patrick Racing team, Roberto Moreno, his teammate, has already been out and qualified 9th quick. So Adrian Fernandez with the second lap, 6 quick, 178.7 is his best speed. And he is now in this field. Patrick Carpentier also in the field with a very nice run, Gary Gerald.
Yeah, Patrick, we were talking with your teammate Tag. Now, he said his car got a little loose in 1 and 2. Your car did the opposite. You had a little push. Now, why would that be?
I don't know, because to be honest, the setups were pretty similar with the cars, and I'm surprised mine went to a push. So we're going to have some wing, but when Alex said he got loose, we said, let's leave it as is and go see what it is. But I guess the front tire pressure came up a little bit more on my car than it did on his, and my rear stayed lower, so it created a little bit more of a push.
The fact that this race is a little longer than the normal oval race here tomorrow at basically 300 miles, is that significant, and does that diminish the importance of starting up front?
Yeah, I think a little bit. You know, like we're just talking the last 2 years, the guys started from 11th place. The guys that won, I'm 10th now, so it's too bad, but we'll take any place we can. But it's definitely a long race, especially because we got a downshift every corner now, so I bet you're going to see a couple of gearbox problems tomorrow.
I don't think you're as bad as you think. I think you're number 5 right now. You're still toward the front, man.
4 right
yeah,
now.
But there's
number 4, they're telling me.
Oh, that's pretty good. There's still 5, 6 guys to go, so if we stay there, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, thanks.
Over in Reading, Pennsylvania at Maple Grove Raceway, they're getting ready to go with the NHRA, and they'll have coverage on ESPN2. Joe Amato is the defending champion and Top Fuel, but of course they'll have all of the coverage for you. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Well, it's the Penske team that is out next. Next 2 cars, Castroneves and DeFerrin. There is Castroneves finishing his warm-up now. He'll head for the green flag.
We've talked a lot about the top 6 in the championship fight. Castroneves is currently 7th, sitting 29 points out of first place. 29 points out of first place. But keep in mind, Castroneves has been very strong the last half of this year, but he's only had 11 points on ovals, 92 points on road courses. So even though he started very well and run well, his finishing record so far to date hasn't been very good on the ovals.
With 88 points left in the season, though, it is doable, though not with laps like that. 8th quick at 178.1, first lap for Castroneves.
A little surprised that he's not getting more speed out of this car. It just puts into comparison how good Vassar and Tracy's qualifying laps, huge improvements over their quickest times of the weekend. Castroneves now struggling a little bit. That lap at 25.671.
Under the checkered flag, does he improve it? No, he does not. 8th quick. First lap did it at 178.1 for Elio Castroneves.
And that was still 0.3 of a second quicker than his quickest lap, but still not enough to move him up in the order.
Let's go back down pit side again. Gary Gerald.
With Adrian Fernandez. Now, Adrian, we've been talking a lot about this championship points battle, and so every one of these races now is kind of magnified in its importance. How comfortable are you going into tomorrow's 300-miler?
It is. Well, the most important thing is to have a good car, a good balanced car that can do the whole race and without getting completely out of balance where, you know, the car starts getting too loose or too much push. And I think that's going to be the key for this race, which is not it's not a 200 miles, a little bit longer than normal. So, you know, we just have to get a good car underneath us and, you know, hopefully we'll be there at the end.
The fact that it's a little warmer today and supposed to be a little bit warmer tomorrow, will that upset that balance you're talking about?
It has upset it. Well, not upset it. For example, this morning the car was a little bit more neutral and now the car had a lot of push. But also, you know, in these conditions yesterday in all tires, the car gets pretty squirrely. That means gets a little loose behind traffic. So it's about, you know, getting that compromise front wing, where to put it for tomorrow, and hopefully we will hit it right there.
Squirrely is fun for us to watch, no fun to drive. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Jan?
Well, Gary, of course, Max Pappas has the fastest practice time thus far this weekend. But while we have a minute, check in the cockpit area and his driver's right to our left, the headrest. You can see that it's much larger as we look to the left as it is to the right. Now, that's what you would use on an oval. We just came from Laguna Seca, where on a road course, where you lean your head from one side to the other, you would have the same headrest on both sides. Here, with 3.5 G's of lateral force in these corners, that's what they do now, just replace the headrest to give you all that support. It helps you obviously hold your head straight, but also support in case of a crash. Paul?
Now, beside that headrest, we are also seeing a number of the driver's partners as we watch Gilles de Ferran coming up to the green flag next time around. Use the Hans device, which is mandated for ovals for next year and strongly suggested for road courses.
And a lot of drivers now saying, hey, I want to run this. Cristiano D'Amato just had his fitted last night. It's a horseshoe collar, goes around your neck, has 2 tethers that connect to the back of the helmet. Whoa!
Whoa.
Big tank slapper coming off the second corner for Gilles de Ferran. Not what you would normally expect on your warm-up laps there, Paul. But it's a safety issue. We just saw Jan talking about the headrest. The ovals, although they are pulling down in turn 1, 3.7 Gs as he takes the checkered flag here. Very disappointing lap for de Ferran.
Yeah, both of them, I'm sure, were. Both of them together best at 177.099 miles an hour and only good enough for 11th. But a very uncharacteristic performance for de Ferran. He came off of the corner. Now watch the car here.
Well, it shows that they just misguessed these conditions for the afternoon. You can see as he comes off the corner, the car starts to get loose. You can see his hands working on the wheel. He had another correction in there as the car started to get loose a second time. Gets it gathered up, heads down into turn 3, and hopefully remembers to take a breath.
So another disappointment for another key contender, the current points leader in the series, Gilles de Ferran, will only be able to start in 11th position, and that's as of right now. His teammate hasn't fared much better. Castro Neves will, as of the moment at least, start in 8th, and there are certainly some opportunities for people to eclipse that. Guys like Kenny Brack, Juan Montoya, and of course the fastest, Max Pappas. Here's the first of Bobby Rahal's 2 cars. It's Kenny Brack, last year's Indianapolis 500 champion, a rookie to this series, still searching for his first win, but maybe very, very close indeed to that.
Several times this year we've seen him leading the field comfortably, only to have mechanical problems lead to a retirement. And we've watched Kenny all weekend long, as we have so many times in the past, drive this car so hard every single lap, from right down on the apron, right out to the very ragged edge of the wall.
Yeah, look, right there. He brings it right out to the wall. First lap complete, but a disappointing lap. 176.573. Temperature?
I'm starting to think that the track has changed drastically in the last few runs, because I can't believe that the engineers for Bobby Rahal, Team Penske, have misguessed the aero setup so much as to create such a slowing of these cars over the last few laps here.
Well, earlier, Jan reported the change made by Don Halliday, the chief engineer there, for Kenny Brack, and none of it helps. 11th quick, and that's a terrible disappointment for this team.
Another championship contender that we thought would qualify right at the front. Breck has averaged a 6.6 starting position on the ovals. He and de Ferran now 2 of the best in qualifying on the ovals in the championship contention, now well back.
Well, Gary Gerald, in a way, the lack of speed on this run almost validates the lack of speed for the 2 Penske cars.
Well, I tell you, Paul, there's some head scratching going on down here between Gilles de Ferran and his teammate Helio Castroneves. Helio, we'll start with you. Now, you said you just had a lack of grip all the way around?
Yeah, it looks like when you were coming to the turn, I don't know if I went too hot or not, but it looked like the car is like understeer and oversteer same time. It's not, I didn't have a specific one. While my teammate, I think, has a different one, a story, actually.
Yeah, the hand gestures that I saw here, and from what I heard from the booth, you had one, what they called a tank slapper. Almost lost it?
Yeah, we were very loose in qualifying, and I was slow in the first lap, so I adjusted the weight checker and went for the second lap. You know, went in, coming out of turn 2, I just nailed the power. I got really loose coming out of there, and that was it. Qualifying finished.
How much is it going to hurt you now as far as starting position for this race tomorrow?
Obviously, you want to start further up the grid, but, you know, I feel we did a lot of full tanks running and a lot of used tires running. I think we'll be all right for tomorrow.
Well, we look forward to it. Here's the man who's leading the championship chase, and his teammates coming on strong, guys.
Well, in the practice, only 3 drivers have been over 180 miles an hour. Here is one of them, Juan Montoya. Cristiano D'Amata and Max Pappas, the 2 yet to qualify after Montoya, are the other 2.
And keep in mind that Montoya has been absolutely dominant in qualifying on the ovals this year. We've seen him lead time and time again. He still has over twice as many laps led as anyone else. It's now, for this year, it's been 58%, I guess, of all laps that he's run a kart, and he's led 400 of 675 laps this year on the ovals.
Jan Montoya is on the green flag.
Who's that, Paul?
You, Jan.
That would be Juan Montoya, but Jan has
No,
an
I
update.
said Jan Montoya is on the green flag. There was a comma in there.
Okay, gotcha. Anyway, by the way, he made no changes based on Vassar's run, so he feels his car was fine. They got the information, but decided not to change the chassis.
So this is Juan Montoya, Jan. He's been laughing at me all year. Oh, first lap. Look at that.
Bada bing, bada boom. There it is.
Little guy's done it again. There's still 2 more to take a shot at it.
Keep in mind, I mean, he's had 5 poles already this year. He's had the poles at Nazareth, Milwaukee, Chicago. This guy with his car control can put this car just on the ragged edge of balance and hang on to it. Second lap, just a little slower by 34 thousandths of a second. Just nips his teammate for the pole.
So by a 10th right now, it's Montoya over Vassar for the provisional pole. 180.334 miles an hour pole position for Montoya. His teammate, Jimmy Vassar, as of the moment, will start on the front row as well. Provisional pole sitter, 2 guys can damage it. D'Amata is one, Pappas is the other. D'Amata is on the circuit. Montoya just blistered that thing. And we have a report that the track temperature has dropped about 4 degrees, but I don't think we're real sure of that report, are we, Parker?
Well, it's a little strange. Something's going on. We're just not quite sure. We saw the frustration there.
Well, you're talking real frustration here now, though. D'Amata at 178 flat. That's only good enough for 10.
Very surprising since he was second quick overall in the combined practice times. These engineers have spreadsheets that take into account barometric pressure, wind direction, tire inflation, ride heights, and they're usually very, very good at calculating changes in track temp and weather conditions. Obviously, some spreadsheets are working better than others. He does not improve on his second lap.
That is a real shock.
And as we look at it now, we've got the 2 Chip Ganassi teammates on the front row, the 2 Team Green teammates second row. Tells you something about setup and about who's got this place figured out.
And one more car to go. It belongs to Rahal driver Max Pappas. Gary, what about his teammate Kenny Breck?
Well, no question. Kenny's disappointed. You looked so strong this morning, and it just didn't come together. Any idea why you couldn't get 3 more out of it here in the qualifying run?
Yeah, the car just pushed too much. It's conditions obviously a little different, and we seem to be just on the knife edge with our car, and we ran good this morning, but in qualifying we pushed too much.
Well, we'll see how Max does out here momentarily. Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you.
Now we're going to step over here and grab Juan Montoya. Now, you jumped to the top, and yet you tell me you had an adventure over in turn number 3?
Yeah, I went in a bit too fast, and I went back on the throttle. And in the exit, I had to lift it because I was going to hit the wall, so I lost a bit of momentum there. But I thought it was a pretty good lap. Now, the car improved from this morning a little bit, so I'm happy.
Juan, do you ever scare yourself?
Yeah. Like yesterday I did in the morning.
When you got into the wall over there?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, you don't get scared when you're going to hit the wall. You get scared when the car is pointing in the wrong direction.
Yeah, words to live by. Wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you.
This cracks me up.
Coming up to speed, Max Pappas now. Last car to qualify. Last one with a chance of taking the pole from Montoya. Jan?
Well, we talked about Don Halliday making a change to Kenny Breck. He made a last-minute change also to Max Pappas' machine. They came up and added front wing, both on the left front and the right front. So he may have heard these reports, and certainly they did it prior to Breck's run, but I think just judging and watching what other people had done, they want more front downforce.
All right, here is Here's the opportunity coming up to take Montoya off the pole. It rests solely in the hands of Max Pappas. Green flag is out. Qualifying run is underway. 2 laps for Pappas.
And look how different his line is than the other drivers we've seen so far. He leaves a lot of room at the exit and then dives hard back on the diagonal down the straightaways, brings the car back up to the wall, which isn't unusual. Watch how quickly he turns back down into the corner, especially into turn number 1.
Line of the first lap is just ahead.
You can see he really pulls away from the wall. Now watch how quickly he darts back in here. Big movement with the steering on the way in.
Whoa! Twisted that thing the wrong way, didn't he?
You know, we've talked about the Drivers' Championship. There's also the Engine Manufacturers' Championship on the line. Honda now leading by 1 point over Ford. 2 points back is Toyota. Right now, this would be 6 poles for Toyota, all on the front row, Honda on the second row. Max Pappas, the only hope for Ford at this point. It doesn't look like he's going to get it done.
No, he not only does it not look like it, he can't get it done. The best he can do is 15th overall at 176.634 miles an hour. That has to be just an incredible disappointment for Don Holliday, the engineer on the team, and Bobby Rahal, Dave Letterman, who's also an owner in that team. But for Juan, he now has his 13th career pole. We'll be back to talk with him and others in a moment. Well, the 6th pole of the season for Montoya. First time Ganassi's had the front row since '96 at Mid-Ohio with Zanardi and Vassar.
And as we look at our championship contenders, look at Paul Tracy. He was the inaugural winner here back in 1997. Very strong on the ovals this year. He could leave tomorrow with the championship lead.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, with Juan Montoya one more time, and we're still chuckling about your answer about do you ever scare yourself. But let's talk seriously about the race tomorrow. You've had this string of tough luck, and it's been hard to finish races. What's going to be the key tomorrow to get one complete, and you run the whole distance and maybe get another win?
I don't know, it's, it's a 300-mile race, a pretty long race. The ovals normally don't go that wrong. So I think we should be fine. We did a long run yesterday, and we got an idea what we need for the car for the long run. So I think we're looking strong for tomorrow, and I'm very happy for Jim as well to be up there and for Target.
Well, you talk about confidence and a guy that's overdue. That's a dangerous combination going in tomorrow. Wish you well.
Thank you.
And it's going to be a good week for him. Expect his announcement to Formula One at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway next week. Don't forget the lineup of coverage for the Motorola 300 and for the Dayton Indy Lights Championship. I'm Paul Page. For Parker Johnstone, Jan Bikas, and Gary Gerald, thanks for joining us. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com.
Men will still